So many of us yearn to fulfill our Dharma, to find our purpose, to do God's will. And yet the ego is such a game player that it can wear any hat, it can wear any mask, it can speak any language. And your ego can come and say, it's really your Dharma to be the CEO of this company. And if you've got to step on 100 people to get there, well, it's your Dharma. You do whatever you have to do. And if you've got to cheat and lie and steal, well, it's your Dharma to get there. And of course, we know that no one's Dharma, real Dharma, would require them to cheat and to step on people and to lie and to steal just to become head of a company. But the ego is so good, it'll tell you whatever story it needs to in order for you to believe it. So this is where subtlety is really important. And it's important to understand what is the voice of the ego. And here's what's really important and really interesting. We actually do know. And yet, this is a question that comes up over and over again. How do I really know? How do I know what's right and what's wrong? How do I know what I'm supposed to be doing? We convince ourselves that we don't know, so that we can get into these long, drawn-out debates with ourselves. The truth is, we do know. Everything in the universe knows how to move, what's right, what's not. Puja Swamiji shares the example frequently of the little dog that steals something from one of the telewalas on the street. Steals it, looks around. If there's no one there, the dog will sit and eat it right there. But if there is someone around, the dog's going to take it and run into a little alley and eat it where no one can see him. So even the dog knows. And with us, when you really go within, when you close your eyes, when you meditate, when you really ask yourself, almost all of the time we do know the answer. The dilemma is we don't actually want to follow it most of the time. And so what we've trained our egos to do throughout our lifetimes is to convince us that which we want to do is actually the right thing to do. That if we want to lie or to cheat or to steal or to betray or to whatever we want to do, we want to engage in greed or lust or whatever it may be, you can be sure that our ego is going to be right there, ready to explain to us why it's the right thing to do, why it's actually in service of our spiritual path, the right thing to do. And this is where Vivek, that power of discrimination, is so important. To actually show us what's true and what isn't. But it's also where simple humility is so important. Because when we're not so attached to what we want, how we want it, when we want it, our greed, then there's a lot less for the ego to work with. Then when we actually come to realize something is the right path, we're much more able to walk it. So I'll give you a couple of just quick sort of, I don't want to say tricks, but hints that you could use if you're really in doubt. Our real calling, our Dharma, our purpose, God's will, is something that's going to expand us. Our true nature is expansive. It is one. And so it's going to be something that will expand our hearts, expand our minds, expand our scope of generosity, of awareness, of helping, of love. That which is our ego is something that's going to cause us to contract. The ego blocks out the rest of the world, and it's only focused on this thing I want, me, mine. So if it's something that causes you to contract, you can be pretty sure it's ego. If it's something that causes you to expand, it's much more likely to be Dharma, God's will. Another little shortcut is the ego tends to be kind of frenetic and in a panic. The ego wants what it wants when it wants it right now. The ego is very prone to stress, anxiety in terms of, oh my God, I might not get it. Oh my God, look at how they're looking at me. Look at what they said. They must be talking about me. I'm going to show them. With the ego, it's always right now. There's a frenetic quality to it. It's right now. The ego is very impatient. And with the ego, of course, we include lust, greed, these aspects of it. It's always right now, gotta have it. Gotta do it, gotta have it. God is pretty infinitely patient. And when it's God's will, when it's our Dharma, there's almost never a frenetic quality to it. But rather there's a patience to it. Okay, you're not ready to learn it today, to know it today? No problem. There's always tomorrow. You're not going to get it this life? Okay. You can come back and do it all over again. Get it next life. The universe is very patient. The ego is very impatient. So if you find that which you're drawn toward has got this impatient, frenetic quality, chances are it's ego. If it's still true tomorrow, the day after, it's much more likely to be Dharma and God's will. And you'll know. Puja Swamiji always reminds us we've got an internal GPS, like the cars have it. We really do know. We just have to be free of the desire, of the fear, of the conditioning. The conditioning, whether it's our culture, whether it's society, that says, oh, a success is only if you make a lot of money. You must reach the top of this ladder, career ladder, popularity ladder, that's a success. Then you've got a calling. You've got a calling to make music or make art, to be a school teacher, to be a gardener, to plant trees, to take vows of renunciation, to spend your life in seva, whatever it may be. That's your Dharma. But the ego is going to yell, but you'll never be a success. But you've got to be a success. A success is only if you make a lot of money, if you're right up there on the ladder. And so we have to be prepared, if we're really going to live our Dharma, to be able to be free of the indoctrinations, of the fears, of the desires, of the calls of the ego. And then you'll know. I mean, look, everything else in the universe knows. I always say caterpillars know how to become a butterfly. They know when to climb the tree. They know when to weave the cocoon. They know when to come out of the cocoon. Seeds know how to sprout, when to sprout. so that they can actually blossom into a tree. It's impossible, inconceivable, that this intelligence would be given to a caterpillar and a seed, but not to us. We just have to listen closely and carefully.